Good everyone, Matt here from MileMarker66 again, and today we're going to be doing something that we've actually already done. Our first ever video was pork ribs, and we thought now that we'd give it another crack now that we've figured out how to increase the production quality of our videos a little bit. But before we get started, let's just have a quick chat about ribs. There's three common types of pork ribs you're going to find out there. The first one is your baby back, and therefrom, if you imagine the rib cage coming round the back towards the spine, the baby back's up close to the spine, just like the name suggests. And they're often narrower ribs, and you can generally tell them by, if you turn it upside down, they've got a real pronounced curve in the rib bone. The other ribs you'll come across are spear ribs, and these are more from down towards the belly of the pig, and they're often a lot wider and flatter bones. And the third one, and the one that we're going to be doing today, is the St. Louis cut. And what that is essentially is your spear ribs that have been squared off. So the butcher's going to run them through a bandsaw and square them off so they just look nice and even all the way across. And they're definitely my preferred type of rib to cook, and that's what we use in competition as well. Now, the other cool thing about doing pork ribs is that there's very little trimming we have to do when we're preparing them. So we'll open this up and we'll have a look and see what we need to do. Okay, the first thing we'll do is we'll get a handy towel and we'll just give it a bit of a dab down, get some of that excess moisture off. Okay, so you can see on the top there we've got some really nice marbling and internal fat there. And what we're going to do is we'll just turn this upside down, and you can see along here you've got this membrane here, and we want to remove that. It is actually edible, it's not going to do you any harm, but it's not particularly pleasant to eat, so we're going to remove that. And the way that I like to do that is to get just your standard kitchen butter knife. I'm just going to try and get it underneath the membrane there. And sometimes these cooperate and they come off very easily, and sometimes they can be a bit fiddly and take a bit of time. We'll just work the knife under there until you can feel it starting to lift. And then let's get that finger in there, start to bring it up a little bit. And then a good thing to do is just get a piece of handy towel, because sometimes it can slip out of your hands. And grip it with that, and then away we come. Okay, the other thing we're going to do when we're preparing it, or trimming it rather, is you'll see down this end the bones here are quite pronounced. They're not thick bones, but as we move down to this end, they get a bit thinner, and in fact they get to the point right at the end where they're pretty much non-existent. So what I do is I like to come back maybe a little bit to the sort of last good bone and just slice that end off there. That just squares that end out, makes it a bit tidier, and makes sure that when people are eating it, everyone's getting a rib that's got a bone in it. Okay, so you can see we've got a really nice looking rack of ribs there. It's nicely squared off on all sides, it's very even, and that's about all we need to do when it comes to trimming our pork ribs. So like I said, pretty straightforward. And then the next thing we're going to do is season it. Now, there's plenty of good rib or pork rubs out there in the market, so you can use whatever your favourite pork rub is. Today I'm using a new rub that I've just discovered. Well, it's not new, but it's new to me. Cimarron Docks is a really nice pork rub with a great colour and great taste. So that's what I'll be using today to season our ribs. Okay, so when we're rubbing our ribs, what we want to do is just get a nice even coating on both sides. So do the underside first. And just give it a bit of a pat down with my hand there. So I don't want to rub it, I don't want to rub it off, I just want to push it in a little bit. Same with the second rack. Then we're going to turn them over and do the top side. When you get a good coating, make sure we're covering all the meat. Look at that really beautiful colour there. So we're going to let that sit for about an hour, and while we're doing that, we're going to let the barbecue heat up and come up to temperature. Okay, today we're going to be doing our ribs on the Octopit MultiQ, and if you watched our last video, you would have seen that we did a hot and fast brisket on this, and we've got this set up slightly differently today. We're going for a reverse flow. So the way that I've got it set up is I've got my top stack here wide open, the one on the opposite, or the right hand side here, is closed, and the same setup on the front. We've got our front ear inlet about 15-20 mil open, and the one on our right fully closed. So we've got a baffle plate in here, a heat source down the bottom here, so it's going to be running it around and out the top in a reverse flow fashion. And we're looking for around about that 275 to 280 cook temperature for our ribs. Okay, we're sitting just on around 275 Fahrenheit there, so I think we're good to go. We're going to get these ribs on. We want to take the time to ensure that we're laying them out nicely. They're going to cook the way that we put them on, so we want to take the time to ensure that they're on there nice and evenly and looking good. And look at that, beautiful. So we're going to leave these for an hour and then we'll come back and have a look and see how they go. Okay, we're about an hour, actually a bit over an hour and a quarter in, and now I can hear these things sizzling away, so let's just have a little look there. Okay, and you can hear some of that fat dripping out the bottom there and landing on the baffle plate, and you can see the colour on these is looking really good. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap these now. And so when I'm wrapping, I'm not wrapping after any specific amount of time, and I'm not wrapping when it reaches a specific temperature. I'm wrapping on the colour, so you can see that looks really good. I like this colour now, so I don't want it to get any darker, and the rub's set, so if I give that a bit of a scratch, the rub's not going to come off. Okay, so we're going to wrap this and it's going to protect that nice colour, but we still want to keep cooking a little longer. Okay, and you can see there you got that beautiful colour, nice red colour on that rack of ribs there. That rub looks really good. So what we're going to do is we're going to wrap it up, and first thing we're going to do down the bottom is I'm just going to lay down a few little knobs of butter and a little sprinkle of brown sugar. Then I'm going to take my rack of ribs and I'm going to place the meat side down or bone side up on the tin foil, and then I'm going to repeat the process. And when I wrap these up, I'm going to double wrap them in foil because sometimes the edges of the bone here can break through the foil, so I generally tend to double wrap, and we'll do the same thing to the other rack of ribs and we'll get them back on the barbecue. Okay, we're going to let those go now for about another hour and we'll come back and give them a probe and see how they're looking. Okay, so we've been about 2.5 hours total now and about an hour wrapped. So I'm just going to open these up and give them a little probe and see how they're looking. Oh, and they smell wonderful. So again, there's not a specific temperature I'm looking for here, although it'll be sort of around about that 205 to 208 Fahrenheit range, but I'm more just probing it to make sure it's nice and beautiful and tender, which it is. These are looking really good. So we're going to take these off, we'll slice them up and we'll get them sauced. Right, now that I've sliced them, I've put them in the tin foil here and it's just acting like a bit of a boat. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to put some sauce on. You can use whatever your favourite barbecue sauce is. I'm just going to give it a really light brush and we're going to put it in the back in the barbecue just for a couple of minutes to let that sauce to set. And what I like to do with my sauce is just heat it up ever so slightly just to take the edge off it. For one, sometimes when your sauce is refrigerated, it thickens up a bit, so heating it up just helps thin it out a bit. And also, I'm not sure if it makes any difference to anything, but I just don't really like the idea of putting refrigerated sauce straight on a hot rib. Okay, as always, the proof is in the pudding, so let's try one of these ribs and see how it goes. So look how meaty that is. Nice big rib, juicy, tender. You can see a bit of nice juicy meat there. All right, let's give it a try. Look at that. That's really what you want. You don't want it falling off the bone, but when you bite into it, you want it to come cleanly off the bone. That's beautiful. That's exactly how you want a rib. So there you go, some beautiful St. Louis cut ribs cooked on the MultiQ. Now, I love eating ribs. I can eat them all day long. They're one of my favourite barbecue things to eat. So hopefully you guys picked something up today. As always, if you like our content, give us a thumbs up and a subscribe. And until the next one, cheers.